Yeah, yeah, Woodlands. We back with another one for the youths in them. Yeah, young, brilliant minds, future in sight. Got the power to make change, make the world ignite. Let nobody say you can't achieve. Your dreams are seeds, someone just watch them grow. But you gotta believe in them. The youth effect, we're raising up the youth effect. Can't hold us down. The youth effect, we breaking ground. The youth effect, they gonna hear us roar. Educate, we get the key, unlock the potential. A lesson every day, knowledge essential. Standing tall, walking proud, let your voice be heard. Unite together as one, spread the love with every word. The youth effect, we're raising up. The youth effect, can't hold us down. The youth effect, we breaking ground. The youth effect, they gonna hear us roar. Educate, we get the key, unlock the potential. A lesson every day, knowledge essential. Standing tall, walking proud, let your voice be heard. Unite together as one, spread the love with every word. The youth effect, we're raising up. The youth effect, can't hold us down. The youth effect, we breaking ground. The youth effect, they gonna hear us roar. Create, initiate, push through, no limits. Go ahead and live it up. Respect, positivity, you on your way. Break down walls, build bridges.
Hi and good evening. It's another Monday of the Youth Effect, and I am your host, Kathy Robinson. And thank you for joining us once again, wherever you are, whether on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TBN Radio, SBE Radio, our streams. Okay, we welcome you tonight. We have a special program for you tonight in honor of I have a dream of, yes, it's Martin Luther King's day today, and we'll be honoring him with a special topic on I have a dream with regards to persistence, determination, and creating opportunities. We have a very, very special guest for you today in the person of Miss Ava Marie Pond, a very special person to me. And I welcome her and make a very special note. She made a very special effort to be here with us today. She's 6 hours ahead of us. And she woke up especially to do this for us, and not only for us, for you, to share with you a story of courage, of resilience, of determination, of passion, of breaking barriers, going beyond boundaries. A beautiful person inside and out. Welcome, Miss Ava.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me. It's okay.
Hey, you fine.
Okay, perfect. So, thank you for that special introduction. You mean a lot to me, and it's very amazing to hear that, with everything that you've seen of me, you still continue to think that, despite the struggles, despite everything, I'm a great person overall, and I continue to make the strides that I need to make to further. So I'll introduce myself.
Sorry. I don't think I know you're a great person. I know. And I believe.
Because you have the amazing ability to give the grace when sometimes, you don't give it to yourself. So I think everyone needs someone like that in their life. But
so tell us about yourself and your background and what makes you so amazing in terms of speaking on the topic of persistence, resilience, and creating our own opportunities.
Okay, so good night, everyone. My name is Ava Marie. I'm 25. I'm a young girl from a very rural town in Jamaica. And for me, dreaming has always been such a big part of my life, such a big motivation for me to imagine all the possibilities that are out there. And sometimes maybe I might even dream too much without actually making the steps towards achieving these accomplishments. But at the base for me, dreaming is just this important motivational force that continues to really push me in every aspect in life. And for today, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, the central theme of "I Have a Dream." It's so I don't want to say common, but it's so popular that everyone knows of this speech, and it's basically synonymous with, this fight for justice, for equality, for economic and racial injustices to be resolved. But at the base of it all, I find that it's this important symbol of resilience, of persistence, of fighting for what you truly believe in at the end of the day. And the baseline of it all is having the audacity, having the spirit to have a dream in the first place, because it's always so easy to remain confined in our mental barriers or mental boxes. So it's always important to remember that we have this overwhelming capacity to dream, and there's really no limit to it. So we should try as best as possible not to impede ourselves with these mental barriers that we put up. So for me, this dream started very young. As I said, like I love to plan. And around 14 or 15 years old, I remember I was with my sisters in Tortola on a vacation, and this was when my whole dream of my adulthood was kind of coming together. And I was like, okay, I want to study medicine. I mean, a few months before, I was like, yeah, medicine. But I think really during that summer, I was like, okay, medicine. I want to live where I want to live. I want to study in Italy. I want to become a surgeon. And I was just making all these plans for my life with absolutely no clue of how, of the steps I would need to accomplish those things. And it gave me a lot of spirit, a lot of happiness, looking towards like all these possibilities in the future. And I'll say now, 10 years down the line, in my 5th year of medical school, 5th of 6th, in the city that I said I would study in when I was 14, 15, like all these plans that I made so many years ago are one by one coming to fruition. And for me, the most important lessons I've learned from this is, of course, like life is not easy. Life is not direct. There are many crossroads, many impediments, many barriers, many changes. A door might change, but then it's always up to us to try as best as possible to keep our dreams alive, but also be flexible and be open and be witty and have an overall positive outlook that allows you to be open to basically take advantage of any opportunity that presents itself. And I think that's what happened. Well, that's what happens with all of us, but specifically in my case, as I said, I came from a very small community. We know that medical school is extremely expensive, and we all have our plan A and don't entirely want to stray too much from it. But, sometimes you still have to plan and look around because everything doesn't always work out straight. And things came up along the way. I moved to a different island. I started pre-med in a different course, and like different things happened and different things fell through. And with a little bit of delay, I ended up in where I want to be at this point. So it's again speaking to resilience. It's speaking to keeping your mind open to opportunities, and of course including God in your life, in your planning, because if you don't have the open-mindedness and the trust in the universe that something will work out, it can put you in a very negative position that can make a lot of opportunities pass you by. So yes, so I'm not sure where I am in my story, but essentially, yeah, these are some key points.
You browsed through the obstacles and the difficulties so smoothly, like it's like, oh, okay, but I know they were a big thing. But one of the things that you
Definitely
mentioned,
not.
one of the things, just capturing what you said in light of what Dr. King opened his speech in saying, I come here tonight and plead with you to believe in yourself and believe you're somebody. Nobody else can do this for you. If the Negro is to be free, he must move down into the inner resources of his own soul and write with a pen and ink of self asserted manhood his own emancipation proclamation. And I want us to think a little bit beyond the terms of what the civil struggles. Well, a lot of the civil struggles is the social injustices and everything else, but a lot of these struggles are within our own selves. Or a lot of our boundaries and limitations are held within our own selves. And I'm going to take some things that he said literally and bring it up to you. He says to write down with pen and ink. And a lot of this in the well-being community, we speak to writing down your vision in pen. Write it down where you can actually see it. Keep that desire and that passion going, that whenever you see it, it keeps reminding you, it keeps you going on, it keeps you going on. Can you share an example from your own life where you had to persevere through challenges? Give us a specific situation where you had to go through these challenges to achieve your goals.
Okay. I will, at first, I'll definitely emphasize how important it is. Well, I think for me, but I think in general, it's very important to write down, to put pen to paper, because it really does make things concrete in a way that doesn't seem so logical if you have the thought going over and over, like, why does writing it down make it so much more significant? But I promise it does, in fact. I mean, tonight, this is in front of me. Earlier, I also had this in front of me, and I have my 2025 planner. Like, everything is just always very much written because it makes it so much more feasible when you can see the words in front of you. It makes that vision so much more attainable. Regarding personal struggles, I'll share one of the most pivotal points in my life. Because I think growing up, I have not faced so many challenges of failure, in the sense that growing up in Jamaica, growing up in the Caribbean especially, academic performance is basically the scale they use to measure you for a very long time, maybe up until you're even 18. So for me, it was always very important to, stay along this road of academic, because that was my defining feature at the time. So up to about the point of 18, 19, I never really dealt with any big academic blows, but I did not get into the medical school, the school I'm studying at now, for the first time I tried. So the situation is that there's an entrance examination, and they only accept around 35 students per year who are not from the European Union. And the first time I tried, I was, I think, number 42 or something like that, hoping for a miracle, hoping that 10, 12 people from the middle would, I don't know, disappear from the list in some way. And that did not happen. And it was a very harrowing experience to deal with, in the sense that this is my first big disappointment academically, and I was not equipped to manage it. I'll tell you now, like, I definitely was not in the best mental state for months after that. And then the pandemic started. So it was just like blow on top of blow on top of blow on top of blow. And eventually, in the end, I mean, the next year I did apply again and I got in. I learned my lesson. Don't waste your time gallivanting in the city. But an important lesson I learned from this is, one, not to tie your personality, your self-worth to a single defining object. So for me, it was just such a shocking experience that I needed to diversify my self-worth. So instead of just being academic, I had to strive to have a more balanced life. And of course, it's a struggle that you have to do consistently, because it's so easy to attribute your worth to a single thing. The next thing I learned is that, you shouldn't shy away from hardship. You shouldn't shy away from failure, because every failure is a learning opportunity. It's a chance to move away from your comfort zone, to be in a position where you're primed to just taking as much information as possible. It also creates mental flexibility in a way that you're more adept in managing situations and finding solutions, because of course, if you fail in a certain way, you have to manage your expectations and try to regroup and reroute, and of course, compose yourself. But it also teaches that you have a structure around you. You have family, friends, and it presents itself with an opportunity to not only lean into those around you, but also learn from those around you, because more than likely they've experienced something like what you've experienced. So yes, for me, that was one of my biggest experiences with disappointment, with having a blow to my dream, and having to reroute. And it also taught the important lesson of, you can have your timeline, you can plan out everything you want to do to the T. The thing is that it doesn't necessarily happen in the same way you planned, in the same timing. Maybe you don't achieve the same goals, but at the end of the day, the same time will pass, and maybe things are a little bit delayed, but there's really no competition. There's no deadline. I mean, life is a journey, and it's very important to rest in each moment and appreciate each moment for what it is, because each experience is really, we are all doing life for the first time, and each experience is really worth leaning into, or at least looking back at it in hindsight with a lot of comfort in knowing that this has built you into the person you are today.
Yes, that is so true. It has definitely built you. You have grown from strength to strength, and maintain your sense of humor too much sometimes. It has made you really a holistic person. What do you do in your, just going a little segue, what do you do then in terms of maintaining that balance? Because that last year of school for you right now is so intense. What do you do to maintain your
Yeah.
balance?
So an important point I said before is to like how you diversify investments, is to diversify your sense of self. And of course, like, it's a forever evolving process of understanding yourself, your likes that are also changing with time. So for me, it's very important to, of course, the grades are important, the studying is important, but I've made a concerted effort to not kill myself over studying so much anymore, where I would have an exam and I'd literally, shut down in the house for like days, weeks, and not hang out or stuff like that. So I've set different objectives to socialize, so at least to hang out with friends, ideally once per week, so 4 times a month, and that's my absolute minimum, where it's like, it's homework, it's mandatory to go out and see people at least, or even in houses where to have dinner or something 4 times a month, so once a week, because you really need to grow socially. Physically, I go to the gym, so for me, it's an important factor in balancing my mental health and also my physical health. So the gym is an important outlet for me. I live very close to my gym, which is also very important. So that's something I enjoy. And recently, I've been building a little community with some runners. We're not really runners, but we'll attempt to do a marathon. But I think an unexpected but really pleasant result of this run group, really just three of us, is that now we have like a sense of community, a sense of a shared goal. And I think these little things that probably seem insignificant have so much of such a huge impact on your overall feeling as a person, as a member of society. So yes, for me, I really try to get the physical in, get the mental work in, go on walks, see sun, touch grass. It's a joke, but touch grass, literally. And and also to give space and time to my feelings and grace to whatever processes I might be going through. So for me, that's been an ever evolving journey. And each year I find, okay, maybe you need to add something here, maybe you need to add something there. Definitely struggling a lot of the time to like find the mix. But I mean, the goal is to eventually to integrate all these aspects into my life.
You gave some very good examples of where you created your own opportunities. For example, in the one where you created your runners group during a marathon, and this is so very important, where there is not you want to do something and it is not existing, you go out and you create it yourself. A lot of people are afraid to do that. How do you, and I'm sure in your entire journey there was some element of fear. Could you explain to us at what point that fear became paramount, other than not getting into the school and to the program at the point you wanted? But how do you deal with those moments of fear? How do you overcome them?
So that's something I'm still struggling a little bit with. So for each of us, our fears are very personal, and the depth of those fears absolutely vary. I think the most important thing is to, acknowledge where your personal fears are and not to measure yourself against anyone else who might, be seemingly effortless in those aspects. For me, socializing is a lot harder than it should be. So again, attributing these shoulds and whatever, it's completely unnecessary. But for me, socializing is a little bit difficult. It takes more effort than I think it does for the average person, and it creates a very big fear in me, the possibility of like social rejection or not knowing how to play into social cues correctly. And when I say it's still very much a current thing that I'm facing and I'm going through, I realize an important part is to one, acknowledge it, and be at one with yourself and who you are. Don't try to be someone else. Don't try to put measures that are, that are not personal. So acknowledge things for what they are and show up as your authentic self. So now I also set the not limit, the minimum amount of times I need to go out and socialize. So that is a push for me. It is pushing me out my comfort zone, and it's giving me like a deadline or a bottom line of things I need to do. But then I've also learned to come to, what would the word be, to be upfront with those people who are closest to me. So I'm more honest, like, okay, you know me, I'm a little bit socially awkward, blah, blah, blah. And I realize when you show up as your authentic self, people have two options. They can either accept you or not. And I think the people who are worth it always end up staying around, and it's never as much as a problem for those around you as it is in your mind. So I think the thing to know about fear is that a huge component of fear is the mental hoops that you're building. And if you can try to move past these things, sometimes even to just like blank out and move towards your goal, the fear is still there, but at least it's not incapacitating. It's not holding you in place. So I think it's to just practice moving ahead of your fears and doing things even with that fear present. The goal is to not let it control your life completely, but to learn that, fear is not entirely a negative emotion. It helps us to be cautious, be aware, be attentive. And it sets us in a position to, again, learn the most from whatever situation we are in that brings this fear. And it gives you a chance to overcome and learn new things. So it's to use that feeling as a tool to navigate life.
Well said, Ava. And it falls again just in line with Dr. King's. I'm going to quote another part from his thing that says, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. In light of this, what kept you courageous, persistent, and resilient in the tough times? And you did mention a basic part of it. You spoke about being true to yourself, being authentic, also remembering God, the universe, where you are at within the whole sphere of life, and going beyond the things that may make you feel doubtful and uncertain and fearful, because fear can be crippling. Fear can be crippling, anxiety can be crippling. And you went beyond also creating this opportunity for yourself. You did your homework, you did your research in terms of where you want to be in Italy, what hotels, and you did a lot of background. But curiously speaking, the Caribbean has a medical school. Why did you not choose Jamaica?
Okay, so for me, it was, again, this is me at 14 with the most insane plans. And it also ties into the question of, what was my motivating force? So at a very young age, I realized, like, if I should think about everything in terms of me, maybe it's not enough as a driving force. And I very early recognized that my family and the thought of children for my future is very important to me. So in choosing where I want to study, where I want to live specifically, I was thinking about somewhere where it's nice, stable, perfect for children and family life. And that's how I came up with Switzerland and Europe in general, because the standard of living here is absolutely different. The social aspects are, it's really emphasized here. and it's knitted into the social, well, the entire fabric of the society here is really caring at the baseline, and it's something that I don't think is in Jamaica, and also not really in America, where things are a lot more capitalistic. So yeah, this encouraged me to find a medical school with English courses in Europe that could transfer to Switzerland. And funny enough, the university that I'm studying at was the first one that came up, but I had to do my due diligence, and go through the whole country, all of Europe, blah, blah, blah. And at the end of the day, I circled back right here at Pavia. It also helps that it's a financially sound decision, in that with a scholarship or without one, it still ends up more feasible than studying in Jamaica, which is in line with American medical school prices.
Okay, so could you tell us about the price factor and how you manage that, though?
Okay. So for this university, you have two options. You can go with the basic tuition, which is calculated based on the country you're from and the degree you're doing. So either you're doing a humanities or a science, and each country falls into one of three categories of price, and the highest you can pay for science courses, which are more expensive, is 4,500 euros for the year. That's the highest you can pay. The lowest you can pay is actually zero. But there's the actual lowest, which is the education tax, which is around 150 euros, which is around 160 US. And this fee would be if you submit financial documents and different like there's a list of documents you should get, which is a little bit difficult to get them in the Caribbean because we don't have the facilities that are dedicated for these specific documents. But if you get them at the end of the day, you can literally pay as low as $0, especially with the exchange rate and everything factored in. It really goes down. So for a country like Jamaica, for I think also Dominica, the price is 1,500, and that's in the second price range. Whereas the US, I think, would be in the highest price bracket, which would be 4,500 euros. And that's, compared to Jamaica, where it would be approximately 20,000, 30,000 US per year. Here's discovered to find that it was significantly lower because public schools in general here, are not for profit. So you will literally see everyone here with multiple degrees, because education isn't about gaining or earning money.
It's about quality of life and elevating that quality of life. Yes,
exactly.
And that is
it's
so
just that basic service.
So you just have to really focus a lot more. Not that you haven't got to focus on the tuition, but a lot more on the expenses for living in terms of your rent and food and things like that. So that takes away a lot of pressure within an education. Yeah, that is. I wanted you to mention that.
Of course, sorry.
Yes, because some people might say that it is so cheap. What is the level of quality of the education? Because we sometimes relate quality with quantity. But as a qualities person myself, I know very well that quality doesn't necessarily means that it has to be expensive. How
exactly, and like that
education.
system here. Again, the thing is that, the capitalist ideology we have where price equates to quality does not exist here. So there's a baseline of cost for education, which for the Italians, it's essentially free. As a matter of fact, you probably end up earning to study, because they also will supplement you with money for housing and for food and for stuff like that. The quality here is exceptional. Pavia, the university I'm studying at right now, is essentially always in competition with this other university in Milan. So Milan is around 20-30 minutes away, and they're always fighting for first or second position. The thing is, Italy is the first country where there was a university, and the university I'm at, University of Pavia, it's one of the oldest universities. It's home to many scientists such as Golgi. If you've ever heard about the Golgi apparatus in cells, he literally lived here. Spalazzini, Albert Einstein, Alexandra Volta, who discovered volts, and all of this city is their home. And it speaks to the fact that education is literally so deeply enrooted in Italian society that quality isn't a question and quantity isn't a factor. So, and on the European, what would the word be, in comparison to other European states, the credits are absolutely transferable. So I study in Italy, I go directly to work in Switzerland, Austria. The only problem that you would have is the language barrier. So, Europe is a continent of many different languages. So on a European scale, the education here is not just comparable, it's exceptional. And it provides you with opportunities that are in line with that quality.
To achieve this quality life, I'm gonna dig you a little bit, because there's a little struggle I'm probing you to bring out, because yes, it's glossy and it can bring out a nice picture, but you actually have to work to pay for your tuition, for your boarding. Could you share a little bit insight into that, how because it doesn't just come easily, that even though the tuition may seem that it's not expensive, but you have to support yourself. And in what manner do you accomplish or achieve that?
Okay, so that's true. I'm actually very I don't always show that I struggle, and I think it's only those closest to me that would see these efforts and know what goes on in the background. But I do work at any single opportunity that I get. So this includes, summers, this winter, which takes away from resting time, but it's really, I don't want to say a responsibility, but of course a responsibility to self and to my mother and to my family and to my dreams, because everything here is not expensive in the grand scale. But then for me, for Jamaicans, for, the median income, or the most probable income in Jamaica, factor in the exchange rate, it is still a struggle. And I still do struggle because, prices are ever increasing and the salaries don't increase in par to those prices. So, and of course, Auntie Kathy would see me with these struggles, but I do work a lot. I am often burnt out, and I'm really looking forward to 1 week in the summer where I can rest, because it's really been a nonstop, circle, and it's a part of life. Everything has its season, and eventually we'll have the stability of a job. So that's the dream that's holding me, that's motivating me to push, push, push. But yeah, it's not all glitters and glam. It's not the easiest road. Of course, it's a lot easier than many other roads, but the fact is that at the end of the day, struggles are still expected. And as a matter of fact, struggles are still very much pervasive. And, they knock on your door at midnight, at 2 a.m., and you have to open the door and deal with it. So, yeah, so that's something that I'm still juggling with. And of course, the dream, the hope for better days is what keeps me afloat in a way.
So in light of Martin Luther King dream of going beyond boundaries for marginalized communities, how do you see that manifesting itself in your school, in the environment in which you live, as well as in pursuing, in others as alongside you pursuing their dream?
So glitters and glam with Italy, it's beautiful, it's historical, it's a very interesting place to be. But racially, it's probably one of the worst places to be, because ignorance here is not a social taboo as it is in the US, or I think anywhere else. As a matter of fact, ignorance is very much excused. And if you are offended by their prejudices, you're the problem. So it's not only that ignorance is excused, it's actively protected. And this is a very difficult struggle to endure every single day, because also here it's not like very explicit. Instead, it's very, it's more, not very, it's more subtle, but it's constant. It's a every single day experience. And to push these, I want to say racial, these backwards social norms and ideologies, it does get taxing. And I always say, like, maybe I'm not the best person to push for social change, because it does take a lot from me emotionally. Like, I'm drained, mentally I'm drained sometimes here. And it's a big wish to hope for that level of equality, and just to have that approach as the baseline, as the norm. And in pushing for this as an individual, you have to really call out things as you see them, because I think a lot of the accountability that is not present is because it's very difficult for us to call out uncomfortable situations, especially when it's from people who are closer to you, people that shouldn't want to hurt you, but yet they still have questionable ideologies, or questionable, or say or do questionable things. It's a very weird position to be put in, to call out people. So I think it takes, on an individual level, we have to, put effort into making or bringing awareness to certain faults in our society, or certain faults in our friendships and our closer relationships, because I think this is the best way, though it might be small, it's the best way to bring about social change from a very micro level with those closest to you. Because in this way, I think we can really create social change, create questioning, create an environment to learn and an environment to, foster each other and foster differing opinions that always exist on a baseline of respect. And that, I think, is the best way to create long-lasting change. Oh, I'm not hearing. Or maybe it's me.
I'm sorry. Yes, I muted.
Okay.
As it's so well put together, because we're seeing that it looks like so effortless for you to go through your day and accomplishing. You've been 5 years now in Italy. We're gonna stop for a break, and when we come back, would you think of giving us some day, a typical day where you may experience this subtleness of difference in people's attitudes and personalities. So thank you for staying with us. You're watching The Youth Effect. We're going to stop for a break from our sponsors. Stay tuned. We'll see you right back.
Get ready for an electrifying thriller. A fearless New York attorney takes on corrupt corporate giants fighting for the powerless. Can this seasoned attorney and his team take down a monstrous company and its powerful leader? What will be the final verdict? What price will our heroes pay? Find out as you turn the pages of The Trust by Sam George. Get your copy of The Trust today from Amazon.com. A smart house run by a vengeful AI, a mute witness to an act of unspeakable evil. A breadfruit thief is haunted. A young man unwittingly creates a god. Giant Krapos terrorize a community. A witch seeks revenge on her neighbors, and much more. The Piton Noir Writing Collective is thrilled to announce the release of the third book in their acclaimed anthology series, The Flying Crapo. Flying Crapo, Heroes and Monsters. Now available for purchase on Amazon.com. Get your copy today and embark on a journey filled with heroes, monsters, and the magic of the Caribbean.
Hi, and thank you for being back with us. You are watching The Youth Effect on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, or Roku, or TDN Network above all. And remember, you can always message us, send us your comments, your feedback, things that you would like, stories you would like to see. Even recommend young people who you impressed with their struggle. I hate to hear the word struggle because struggle is so negative. We do not want to manifest that into our lives. But resistance, and how they go through the barriers and the obstacles that they face. So remember, you can email us at theyoutheffect767@gmail.com. Okay, and we are here with Miss Ava Marie Pond, a fifth-year medical student from Jamaica, studying in Italy. She did a lot, crossed a lot of rivers, a lot of mountains to make this happen. Ava, do you have a social media handle that people can follow you and also follow your progress and just see you expressing yourself sometimes in your social moments?
No, I'm wondering how appropriate.
It might be.
Okay. It's not entirely inappropriate, but I do have Instagram. I'm kind of a little bit of a personality there. So my Instagram is, I think I can also type it. So at Ava Pond _. So I do post progress there, like experiences in Italy, experiences in the hospital, also with my fitness journey, my friend groups, like things like that. It's not inappropriate. Maybe it's a little bit lame, but I think I show a lot of my personality there, which is not necessarily as clean cut as how I present in the streets all the time. So this is where the real me
You're
comes out.
yourself. That is
Yeah,
your opportunity to obtain that level of balance that you were speaking of
exactly.
earlier.
Exactly.
So before we cut off for the break, we were speaking to the subtle racism and differences and level of ignorance you were speaking to.
Mhm.
Could you give us
Mhm.
a few examples and how those things made you feel at a particular point in time and how you dealt with it?
Okay. So I remember being here for maybe after the first 4 months or so. And it was it was weighing on me a lot to, sorry, I'm just sending a correction in the group, in the chat, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Uh, it was weighing on me because I come from Jamaica, where I see people who look like me, people with similar experiences, and people who understand my experiences without me having to explain anything. Like, this is my normal. That has been my normal. In New York, in Antigua, in Dominica, everywhere I've been, there's been enough representation for me to not feel ridiculous. Then I moved here, and first month, absolute excitement. I'm not really looking around to observe my environment. Second month, the stresses of all the bureaucracies getting to me. Third month, I'm trying to, make friendships more along the lines of, it's easier, it's a better flow with people who have some similarities in the background, not to mention the language difference. And then the fourth, fifth month, I'm like, I really don't see any Black people here. And the only people I see here that look like me, that I know share my experiences, I often see them in lower positions in society, like maybe selling on the street, or cleaning. And this was, it's not something I ever factored in because I would not expect that, but it did really affect my sense of self and my sense of my community, because I didn't have the representation in all aspects as what I'm used to, but instead here it's very much confined to, like a specific sector of society. And then also not seeing professors, not seeing doctors. I remember the first times I was working in so long after the first year, working in the hospitals, doing my rotations. And every time I would start a new rotation, I'd be in the office or I'd be in the halls, and somebody would walk past and then they'd turn back to double take because, again, Italians have no shame, none at all. Like, if you're offended, you're the problem. They would stop, turn back, and look at me with the most confused look on their face. And where's the subtlety? Like, where's the shame to approach it like that? And then also here, there's the stare. I call it the Italian stare, because anything that's remotely out of the norm, they will stare at you. And it's not like, occasional glances when you're interested and you want to keep looking at something. They will stare at you, stare in your eyes, hold that stare for like 10, 20 seconds and like watch you when you're walking past. And it just feels, it's borderline abusive. Like, it feels so icky, because then you start to think about, like, pinpointing like all the worries you have about yourself or these different things. Like, okay, so basically it's this level of watching in everything you do. Once you exit your house, you can feel that societal pressure because you look different. The good thing is that this year definitely seen a lot more people that look like me. Professors, okay, professor one, but still an improvement. Personnel in the hospital who's they're not just cleaning, just like, nurses, doctors, and also a lot more students. So in the year that I came, I was the only Black girl in my class, and to a large extent, I'm the only person that I would see on campus because there are different campuses here. So in the medical campus, the only one. And this year, I'll say I'm seeing a lot more people, even where I live, a lot more people. And it creates a sense of belonging that I didn't know I needed. So for me, the pervasive sense of being in the wrong place or being somewhere at the wrong time is such an Italian experience because you really don't always have representation here.
I'm just taking sometimes a little longer to go on because I you when you go up. But you seem to have dealt with it, or it's dealing with it. Though they don't, have you ever had to deal with it directly, like say anything to you or
I'll
send
say,
something at you? Maybe not directly, but send something in your area.
yeah, Italy is the first place I've been called the N-word by a random stranger. And it was such a surreal experience because I had two other friends there, and it was just a random man coming off the bus who was really angry with me, laughing at something my friend said. And you think that you'd be angry in these situations or you'd fight for your case, but I think every time I experience outright racism, I cry because it's very it's not a nice reality to confront, to know that something that you have absolutely zero control over has such a huge impact on where you end up in life and the opportunities you're presented with. Also, I have a lot of people in circles that I'm in, such as my class, where I live, who freely throw around the N-word, and I'm like, Italy is not isolated from the internet and the rest of the world to know that these things are social taboos. And it's really disheartening every time when I have to explain to someone who I think would respect or care about me that saying something like that is so deeply disrespectful that, you can't even imagine how hurtful it is for me. And every time I have to make an explanation like this, I get confronted with the fact that some people really don't care about learning, and some people will really encourage you to explain to them just so that they can rebut your explanation and give zero thought, zero nuance to different perspectives. So it's really another struggle of choosing your battles and not being afraid to change your circles and move away from people, because no one wants to classify themselves as a bad person. And of course, it takes a lot to classify someone.
We seem to have lost a little bit of Ava here on her internet, but we can see, until we get her back, we can see that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech and his passion and his drive for social justice is still so relevant and pertinent for today, that speech doesn't seem like it was done in 1968. It's so relevant in this 20th century, in 2022. And what would you encourage persons to do in such instances where you have to really stand up? You said choose your battles. Um, Sometimes it can get so offensive and you feel like all the heat is going up in your head. How do you decide which battle to choose, where to just say this is not worth it and go ahead and in
Mhm.
your on your journey, on your path?
So I think recently I've recognized that there are two type of, maybe there are even more than two types of people, but the way a person approaches being confronted by, by questionable views that they might have or questionable things they might have said can be one of two things for me, maybe two very broad categories. But, someone can respond with genuine want or a genuine interest in understanding your perspective and a willingness to adapt their thoughts, their ideologies, and integrate other aspects that they've never had to integrate before. And then there's the other type of people that will beg and plead with you to give these same explanations, but you can always feel the resistance, the fact that their mind is closed to understanding your perspective and understanding their errors. And I think it's an exercise of being better at recognizing these people. Of course, we should give uh, everyone the benefit of the doubt, but I think to a certain extent, it's self preservation to lose who you have to lose sooner rather than later, because it really does eat at you a little bit each time. And I think it's very important to protect your essence, which unfortunately is often realized after a bit of it is lost. So, for me, I think that's the important part in recognizing someone's objectives in hearing your perspective. We can't hear you.
Okay.
No, no, no.
It's as perfectly said, Avra. And in terms of you giving advice to persons, choose your battles, give people the benefit of the doubt. Well, we cannot always do that. My daughter, your sister always says, Mommy, I cannot always be positive,
Yeah.
and that is such a true thing because just today I was thinking on certain things. There's such a, in reflecting on that, what she said. And I realized there are two things to that. There is a reality of acceptance and of the facts of being rational about certain things, and accepting it within yourself are two separate things. In
Mhm.
terms of, yes, you can be positive about something and putting it in perspective in the bigger picture, but it's something still create a wedge within you or some level of pain. And it can be hard for young people to be able to overcome that, because yes, we can, no matter how much we say we have to be positive and encourage you all to be positive all the time, sometimes to be real and to be human, we cannot always, it's not always possible to stay positive. How do you deal with your moments?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, I hope to deal with my moments as best as possible. Of course, this doesn't always happen. I think I I'm a very dramatic person. I'll put that out there, and I feel everything. Maybe a little bit too much, but that's my normal. I feel everything very deeply, and whereas it can be a strength in certain aspects, it really facilitates my crash outs and my mental breakdowns, because I'm definitely not lacking in these. Uh, so I would say that's still something I'm struggling with. now I've identified some negative tendencies that things that I keep doing. Like, I don't normally seek help. So if I'm having a very bad period of time, I love to isolate. Absolutely love it. Don't make calls. Don't exit my house. And I realize, well, obviously, that this would probably keep you in the loop. But sometimes you don't have the energy to exit the loop. And I think a part of it is like giving yourself the grace to, like be a little out of it. But then also to know that you shouldn't stay in that state for too long. So it's this very hard balance of, giving yourself the time to crash out and have your low moments, but then knowing that you have a responsibility to yourself and to your future happiness to try to crawl up from that down period and make efforts to get back to your normal humor, your normal spirit. So now I'm in the journey of realizing that you can't do this all on your own. Of course, you have family, you have friends, but it's also very important where you can to have professional help, because it really does make a difference. And also to help yourself a lot. So a lot of introspection, a lot of coming to terms with how you feel, and also to not put too many expectations or comparisons on yourself. So to give yourself the space to move through what you're moving through, but also know that you have a responsibility to yourself and also to others, but most importantly to yourself to pick back up. So for me, it's that ever, tilting balance of crashing out and then picking myself back up and like going down and going up, and now to recognize the bad responses that I might have to like isolate and like actively work against these. So to reach out. And the thing is that I think deep down, or maybe even on the surface, we know a lot of these things help. Calling your mom or calling your sister or a friend in that moment when you're really low really does make a difference. But it's sometimes that's just difficult, like that decision to do it. So I think it's to work on the ability to do what's in your best interest. So it's constant exercise to get to the point where making these decisions is more and more easy, because it works, but that's not the problem. The problem is doing what we know works.
Yeah, and I definitely agree. What I had to end up learning about myself, and what I also project to others too, it is important to be aware of what you feel. You need to, in that moment, feel the feeling. You need to give it a name. You need to identify it. You need to speak to it. And okay, because if you do not know what you're dealing with, then you cannot deal with it. If you do not know you're feeling depressed, you do not know how to deal with it. If you do not know if you're feeling anxiety, you do not know how to deal with it. There is a wheel of emotions. We can Google it. We can go on YouTube and look at it, where each basic thing has an identity. It has a name. It is what it is. Call it what it is and deal with it.
Exactly.
And one of the things, how I started dealing with my emotions, and one of the things I also tell people is, okay, I'm going to allow myself, and give yourself permission. It's okay, which is what you spoke about. It's okay to give yourself permission to feel your feelings. Because if you don't do that, it's going to act like water. Because our feelings and our emotions are just as liquid as water. Water always finds an outlet. If we're not able to garner it properly or contain it properly, our emotions are going to find an outlet. So, okay, I'm gonna feel my feelings for an hour. Nobody don't bother me. I'm gonna feel my feelings for an hour. Put your clock to alarm. Feel as miserable. Cry as loud as you want. Boo hoo hoo. Get the tissue out. Give yourself permission to feel the feelings. And at the end of that hour, you get up, you put on some makeup, you take a shower, you go for a walk. As you said, getting into nature is very, very, very important. Touch is really, really important. If you have somebody, touch. You don't have somebody, you may have a pet. If you live alone, sometimes it's good to get a pet. A pet is extremely helpful in helping you to deal with emotions. Get a fake one, get a teddy bear. That's okay too.
I literally have, I was just gonna go for it, but that's a little bit too far. I literally just bought one in
Good.
December or with a hot water bottle and I put it in my pillow and I'm
Right.
just like, okay. Or a weighted blanket. Let me tell you, these things, for some
Yes,
reason,
the little things.
they really
Yes. Yeah. So find
make a
something
difference.
which does it for you. Ashley, my daughter, doesn't like AI, but you know what? My mother ended up having a conversation with AI one day. She was laughing her head off. She alone in a room. She's having a conversation with AI on WhatsApp. Do that. There are so many things, that help yourself, force yourself after that hour, or you can
Mhm.
even actually plan something after the hour. This is what I'm gonna do. Have some ice cream. I am sorry. My treat is ice cream. I will sit down
Mhm.
and eat a quart of ice cream. I treat
Literally me
myself.
tonight,
And
but I
it's
don't
all
have any.
everything, yeah, everything in moderation. And it's good that you can identify that. The important thing is having the level of awareness, building the level of awareness within yourself, in how to deal with your moments of crashing, and knowing that there is always an opportunity to get professional help when it crosses the boundary or the border of normalcy, and as we're coming down to the close of our program, however, I want to thank you so very much, because we said we were going to do 45 minutes to get you back to sleep, because right now it's around 5 o'clock your time. Is it close to 5?
No, closer to 4.
Oh, it's
Because it's a 5-hour difference now. Yeah, I told you
okay.
6, but it's 5
Yes.
now. Usually it's
Okay. So I
I'm
was set
just so
up to do this specifically for, and I really, really appreciate you doing this to bring across your story. I know it wasn't very easy for you to do this. You can be a very private person, and I appreciate you going beyond that to share that with other young people, and also the adults who are listening, because sometimes we adults, when you started pushing your boundaries, you didn't go into depth, but when you started pushing your boundaries and say, I am going to Italy and I am doing this and I'm doing that, the things that you did as a 20, at the time you started doing all those things at 15 and 16, like, what is Ava doing? She cannot do this. How is she going to get this done? We as adults can be naysayers, because within our own limited scope and imagination, we do not see how it's possible to get things done, because a lot of times we believe in staying in our comfort zones and do not see beyond that wall. Before we come to what would be your message to parents, to adults, in allowing our children to spread their wings and go beyond the boundaries, see beyond our limited scope to achieve their dreams?
okay. My message to adults, I think especially in our community where, like the Caribbean community, also the African American community, African diaspora in general, where we do have a very strict, um, at sometimes overwhelming culture with a lot of social expectations. I think it's very important for parents, of course, for their children and also for themselves, to encourage diversity in expression, diversity in thought, to give leeway and give space to mistakes and dreams and experiences. And make the concerted effort to be open-minded, and in cases where it's so out of reach to be that open-minded, to at least be neutral, because I think children, especially at younger ages, have this overwhelming capacity to be bright and loving and experimental and just have the absolute world at their heart and at their fingertips. And as adults in anyone's life, we should foster this joy and this purity, because it's a very harsh world, and unfortunately this I don't know how to explain it, but I'm sure all of us have seen it in the young children when they just like young and bright-eyed. I think it really should be our responsibility to safeguard and facilitate this joy and love and naivete, and it should be one of our biggest responsibilities to allow and encourage children to flourish and experience their experiences without being too harsh. Of course, it's for us to find the balance between guidance and overwhelming, directing. But again, it's an effort to make, and I think it's an effort that's worth it at the end of the day for society, as we can see where it's going, and also for the happiness of yourself, and also for your children and the children around you and future generations.
And what would you say to young people? Think of your 15-year-old self fighting with everybody around you to get to where you want to be, and think of your 25-year-old self. I said 25-year-old self.
19.
That's an internal joke. I said she's still 19. We're still 19. But what advice, comparing the two ages, where you are at now with when you started this journey and you really had to put a lot of extra emotional capital into leaving home and going to another country at such a young age to get into that school and all the other things. That think of these two things, and what would you say to young people at these two stages of their lives?
I think it's a cliche, but definitely to dream big, dream huge, dream ridiculously, and give yourself the grace to experience your experiences, because you'll change 10,000 times and you'll be so sure of who you are, and then you hit 19, you hit 20, and you have no clue who that person is in the mirror. And you reach a point where you realize, like, all of us are humans, your parents, adults around you, like, everyone is human. You're also a human. You've reached the age where you're old enough to not know everything, and you have to give yourself so much grace because it's such a confusing period of time. So I think the baseline is to give yourself grace through all experiences, but especially when you're old enough to realize that you don't know everything, and you probably also don't even know yourself, and then to navigate everything that comes after that with truth and sincerity and love and a deep-rooted need to give yourself the understanding and patience that you'd want to give a young child or someone you really love dearly.
How do you give yourself grace? It's that comes off so easily sometimes. I'm giving myself grace. I'm giving other people grace. Well, what exactly is grace, and what does it look like?
I think grace is giving yourself, just like when you're, if you meet a new person that you're dating or someone you're interested in, and you give so much time to learning about them and seeing everything about them and spending time with them, I think you should treat it as a similar experience where you're in a way courting yourself, getting to know yourself, and trying to accept everything as it is without any judgments, without any, predetermined thoughts or outcomes or anything, just accepting everything as it is, and um, and giving light to both the positive and the negative aspects of yourself, because I think the more you fight some things is the more it becomes like this big force that drives your life. But if you acknowledge more things and you're more truthful with yourself, then you're able to, feel your feelings, feel your experiences, and take what you need and move past what you need to move past. So for me, giving myself the grace is acknowledging my feelings, acknowledging not only the emotional feelings, but also the physical feelings and insecurities, and giving the space, the rest, the disappointment, the even today I didn't wake up early. I needed to be somewhere at 7:30. I woke up and I saw the sun outside and I'm like, why is the sun outside? Like, what time is it? I looked up, realized I slept through my alarm. And I realized my body has been so pressured for these days. And I felt very sad that I couldn't accomplish the timeline I set. But then at the end, I recognized that your body, your mind knows what it needs, and to push it to the point where it takes it instead of you giving it to yourself, I think that's a point we shouldn't force ourselves to reach. So we shouldn't reach those breaking points. And in not reaching those breaking points, it's fundamental to understand yourself and understand your experiences. Not hearing.
My mouse is doing all kind of things. Sorry, I apologize. You said that so nicely, and it is so important that we listen to our body, we listen to ourselves, because in achieving our dreams, we might be so driven that it is we might forget those things. So thank you for really being on here with us. And one of my favorite things in terms of keeping me going, I went back to school after 20 something years myself. And as you're saying, it's never too late. Give yourself that grace, because the timeline may never be our own. And what kept me going, and it's still my motto, is this Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s quote, which says, fly. If you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. If you can't crawl, put one hand in front of each other, stop, rest. Put another hand, because sometimes the journey can take us like a meandering river. It will take us far off our base where we want to go to. But it's also in giving ourselves that grace that we come back to and achieving our goals. I want to thank you so much for being on there with us, because you exemplify what it speaks to in terms of giving yourself grace, in fighting for that, going beyond our comfort zones and living. And the important thing is living. For us as parents, in being there and supporting our children, in guiding, as we spoke to, in understanding the difference between guiding and being overbearing, in terms of living our life through our kids, in giving those kids grace. And we spoke to that in one of our programs, in knowing where our boundaries are with our children, allowing them to spread their wings, and just being there to do whatever we can to support. And we'll always be there to support you and to buffer you and to give you whatever you need to accomplish that one last year that you're going through. Well, just for medical school, you have another couple of years to go through to be surgeon. But, all that is giving
Thank you.
So thank you once again for being with us. And remember, you are watching The Youth Effect. We are speaking to Miss Ava Marie Pond. this wonderful, beautiful, and as she said, she can be dramatic, but she is lovely in all her drama. She is very calm. She's knowledgeable, and she is going to be a wonder in that surgical operating room. We're rooting for you, Ava. We wish you all the best. We love you and have a wonderful, wonderful 2025 into 26. Looking forward to your graduation. And Dr. Ava Marie Pond, you do
Thank
your
you,
best.
Auntie.
And
Love
it's
you
good
so much.
to understand the times that you need to reach out at the times that you need people, because we're all here for you. Yes.
Thank you so
So
much.
thank you. Thank you, our viewers on Roku, on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. We thank you so much for being with us again for another episode of The Youth Effect. We are here every Monday, wherever you are looking at us, in Canada, in Dominica, in Africa, in the US, all over the Caribbean. Thank you for being back with us again. Remember, we are here as a conduit to the young people for their voices, their expression. Remember, as a young person, also, this is your space, this is your impact. That's why it's called the Youth Effect. We pull in all what you do to us into creating, amplifying your voices, promoting your self-expression, helps us to give you a safe space for your authenticity and your inclusivity in everything in life. This program aims to foster the gap between youth and adults in terms of bridging the generational gap and advocating for youth-led change and social harmony. So join us in that. Send your comments. Thank you for being part of us in that journey and the level of advocacy for, with, and by the young people. We'll see you again next week for another great episode of The Youth Effect. I'm Kathy Robinson. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Have a blessed week. Remember to give yourself grace. And remember that your journey and achieving your dreams, it's never too late to do that. God bless and see you next Monday. Good night.
Every day, knowledge essential, standing tall, walking proud, let your voice be heard. Unite together as one, spread the love with every word. The youth effect, we're raising up. The youth effect, shall hold us down. The youth effect, we breaking ground. The youth effect, they gonna hear us roar. Educate, we get the key, unlock the potential. A lesson every day, knowledge essential, standing tall, walking proud, let your voice be heard. Unite together as one, spread the love with every word. The youth effect, we're raising up. The youth effect, shall hold us down. The youth effect, we breaking ground. The youth effect, they gonna hear us roar. Create, initiate, push through, no limits. Go ahead and live it up. Respect, positivity, you on your way. Break down walls, build bridges. Yeah. The youth effect, we're raising up. The youth effect, shall hold us down. The youth effect, we breaking ground. The youth effect, they gonna hear us roar. Never forget your home, but look at where you're going. Keep that passion growing. Youth the heartbeat of a world in motion. So rise up, speak out, start the revolution. The youth effect, we're raising up. The youth effect, shall hold us down. The youth effect, we breaking ground. The youth effect, they gonna hear us roar. The youth effect, we're raising up. The youth effect, shall hold us down.